Hey everybody, what is going on? This is your boy Scott Garber back with the Profluence podcast. It's been a little while, so excited to be back in the seat. We have a super exciting guest today. There's so much innovation happening in the sports world, and so often we think about the folks that are playing on the field. We tend to neglect this sports tourism side of the fence. So excited to bring on the CEO and co-founder of Playeasy, the long snapper specialist himself, Sean Flaherty. My man, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
What's up, Scott? Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
It's fun to be back in the seat. For all of you guys that don't know, Sean and I are part of a special fraternity of specialists, and you can just say we were peas and carrots when we met each other. So super excited to have today's conversation, learn a little bit more about Playeasy and all the exciting things they're doing. But Sean, it's your story to tell, man. So let everybody know a little bit about who you are and where Playeasy came from.
Yeah, yeah. It was great getting to meet you. We got a chance to meet about a month ago down in Florida, and found out that we were actually at the same high school long snap and kicking and punting
Small world.
competition combine thing. So super small world, really funny. But yeah, that's kind of really like the catalyst for how this all started. So originally, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. Was an average athlete growing up, but loved sports. Played everything, and just got lucky to have some sort of like talent to throw a football between my legs. And so that ended up getting me to be able to be the long snapper at Boston College. At BC is where my roommate, best man at my wedding, the punter for us was his name's Ryan Quigley, and so we were like two peas in a pod, you know. And built a great relationship. I also met another one of my co-founders, Kerry Shields, who was an All-American basketball player at BC there. So that is a little bit of kind of like how this started to kind of how the dots began to get connected. And so after school ended, went into a tech company called Intralinks. And what I was doing is I was selling software into big banks, and that's where I got a chance to kind of cut my teeth in the software world. At Intralinks is where I got to meet our CTO and our fourth co-founder. His name's John Gorin. And funny enough, actually, my boss was Pete Francilis at Intralinks. And so I know you guys are connected with Pete. He's the CEO of TeamSnap. And so really
The
small
worlds
world,
get
how these
small,
things are all
man.
connected.
Small
Yeah, it
worlds,
is.
small worlds.
It is. It is crazy. So yeah, so I was doing the software sales thing, and me and my buddy Ryan, he got the opportunity to play in the NFL for about 7 years with the Jets and the Vikings and a few other teams. We would run kicking, punting, and snapping camps up and down the East Coast, while after football ended for me, just as really kind of like a way to stay in the game, and maybe I could help teach this skill to somebody else who could take it and kind of have that life-changing moment that like I did. And so we'd run these kicking, punting, and snapping camps, and it was funny because what we're doing is we're sitting there zooming in on Google Maps and looking at like green square pieces of grass. Like, okay, is that a field that has field goal posts? And like, all right, who do we call to be able to rent that venue to host our camp? And as I'm sitting there at my software job, I'm thinking, man, there's got to be an easier way than this, right? Like, we're millennials. We want to some sort of way to just click a button and make that happen, right? And so we started to have this idea of, hey, what if we made like Airbnb for sports facilities? That was the initial analogy and kind of the initial concept that we were looking at. And so I started kind of designing out like wireframes to what this could look like. And one of the designers at Intralinks I went to and said, hey, could you like design this for me? I didn't realize it was John Gorin's girlfriend, who is our CTO. And so she brought this back to him, and this whole thing kind of came together, and we ended up in 2018 basically launching this facility platform that has evolved into a much bigger kind of sports tourism platform that we'll get into. Um, uh, Launched that in 2018, and John Gorin came on board, and Pete Prinzillis became an advisor, and Ryan and Carrie joined our team, and off we went.
Man, it's so neat. I think, Sean, we look at some of these companies as like overnight successes, and it's almost a decade of, getting your teeth kicked in and bobbing and weaving, and now all of a sudden, we see this behemoth start to, be born. I want to touch on it because it's part of your journey, and it's actually when I first got connected with Ryan was during COVID. And so, from a founder lens, talk to us, like with you guys sort of propping a whole business up on bringing people together and identifying, these locations. How did you, from a founder's lens, navigate COVID? And what was probably the biggest takeaway that you guys now sort of have in your business today?
Yeah, well, COVID taught a lot of lessons, and that was the biggest moment in our company history by far and away. So right before that, we got accepted into a program called TechStars Sports Tech. So TechStars is a prestigious tech accelerator program, and they made their own special sports tourism or sports tech program. And a couple of the investors or partners of that were one, Indiana Sports Corp, and two, the NCAA. And so this was the summer of 2019. So we take that Airbnb for sports facility concept where we had like maybe 300 facilities in the New England area that we started to try to connect with event holders, camps, tournaments, that kind of thing. We take that to the TechStars program, and Indiana Sports Corp, who invented the industry of sports tourism, looked at this, and the NCAA looked at this like, hey, that's cute, but this could become a sports tourism platform. Do you guys know about sports tourism? And we're like, no, not really. Besides, we know what sports is, we know what tourism is. So that's really a huge business that we didn't even know existed. And we were in it, right? We were participants in it, and you were as well.
Yep.
Flying to different locations and taking place at these tournaments. And so really, any sporting event that drives any sort of tourism or out-of-town visitor is this industry called sports tourism. And they taught us that, right? And how can we pivot our platform from just working with the facility for some of these smaller events to actually working with cities, what we call a destination, but a destination marketing organization or a CBB, a sports commission, sometimes they're called, right? How can we start working with cities to get them involved and allow them to connect in what they care about is economic impact, right? An event comes in, how much money is getting spent at the hotels, the restaurants, the attractions, shopping, et cetera. So that's what they really care about.
Yep.
So that time frame, the fall of 2019, we spent really thinking about, okay, how can we build this sports tourism platform? How can we get destinations in? Start to get a plan together, and then COVID hits. And we were bootstrapped, right? No institutional money, no VC, no private equity. So our reserves are really small. And so we're looking at COVID and we're like, oh my God, we're dead. Right. This is it. And we gave it a shot. Right. We took 2 years, and it was interesting. And looking back, it kind of was freeing in a way, because we were able to accept that we lost. Right. We kind of had that like death experience. Right. And then what happened is kind of like the world stood still. And really, Kerry Shields and Ryan Quigley, they really stepped up. And Kerry learned how to code. Ryan went without pay, and they just went after it. And, all of us try to, we all chipped in. I had a couple of family members come in, and, they were working, and my dad was retired. He came in and tried to help us with sales and that kind of thing, and kind of all hands on deck. Well, we all tried to figure out how to make money and survive that moment. And that kind of went from February to March, and then April happened. And so April, we get this call from the state of Indiana. So with the Indiana Sports Corp, they own this organization called Team Indiana, which represents all of the destinations and all the cities across the state of Indiana. And so we get a call from them. And what was happening is sports was like one of the only things that was able to still happen during COVID, right? It was almost like, hey, the kids got to go run around. Like we got to have soccer events. We got to have golf. We got to have some things happen. So sports is like the only thing that really, like from a live event experience perspective, happened during COVID. But what was happening is Illinois and Ohio weren't really having that many events. And so a lot of people wanted to go into Indiana, but Indiana had no clue what their facility inventory was across their state. And so they're like, hey, we thought maybe Playeasy could help us get all of our facilities on there so we can understand what our inventory is. So if we need to move some events here or there, we want to keep it all within the state of Indiana and try to take advantage of as many events as we can. And so that was like the first customer where we're like, oh, wow, we can get a whole state, right? We can get thousands of facilities across the state. And so that was what sparked us to say, maybe we have something here. And so we kind of went further out into the destinations. We got this community called Treasure Coast in Florida, on the other side of Florida from you guys. And then next thing you know, right, we had 300 facilities in New England, 19. By the middle of 2020, we had, I think, 9,000 facilities in over 200 cities that had come onto our platform. And what happened was, wow, they all relied on these conferences to go to and to meet in person, and they needed a digital way to connect. And so we were allowing them to have this digital presence and allowing event organizers to create these RFPs for events that they wanted to get out there and notify them and help with that digital communication. And so that like certain death blow that we had in February, where we kind of came to grips with like, okay, we're done. We kind of like we're like a phoenix rising from the ashes, and we started to have something going. And we also didn't have like the pressure on us that we kind of like were real tight, trying to get this thing going. And every day was stressful. We kind of had this like outer body experience almost, right? And like we could build what we wanted to build now. And yeah, so interesting kind of path there. But COVID was crazy
Wow.
times.
And I think it's one of those things, Sean, like there's so many nuggets and directions we could go off of that. First call out, you don't know this, but I'm from the Treasure Coast. So from Port St. Lucie. So shout out to the little blip on the radar there. But I think there's something so interesting and, where we think about this from like the Profluence and when we talk about it in the community, right, is it's leaders rise up, right? And they respond. They don't react to these situations. And so as I'm listening to you, I think that it's really interesting to see and get that buy-in from your team and then respond to what the market's giving to you, right? And so, I'm excited to continue the journey because Playeasy now, has a whole new look and feel and is continuing to evolve, but would be remiss without calling out like, man, when there's that sense of calm, right? When we're not making decisions based out of fear, when we're making them based out of confidence and you have a whole team behind you, things are able to happen, right? And things are naturally able to happen. And I think we see the opposite of that sometimes as founders and entrepreneurs try and force their idea into the market. You guys really just let the market start to dictate where this, product actually goes. So let's continue the journey and then we're going to dive into some of the specifics. But what has been the final evolution? Where are you guys at now? How have you sort of positioned yourself in this sports tourism, what we'll call niche, but really expanding market?
Yeah, definitely. So we've been there. We've been trying to force our solution, and then we let the market kind of take our solution to where we wanted to go. And two totally different experiences. One is much more enjoyable than the other. So what we stood up was this event matchmaking thing for sports tourism driving events, right? So event organizers can create their RFP like it's TurboTax, right? Fill out a couple of fields, and we're going to match make. Okay, here's the facilities and destinations across the country that could host you, and now they can respond back, and you can just streamline that whole kind of like response management negotiation workflow. And so as we looked at this, we had kind of two decisions. Like, do we want to try to build for the event organizer further, or do we want to try to build for the destination further? And what we found was in the destination is something that has been pretty much completely neglected. A lot of people build for facilities. A lot of people build for event organizers. A lot of people build for sponsors, teams, clubs, etc. But nobody was building for this stakeholder that's a very important stakeholder in this entire ecosystem, which is the CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, or the Destination Marketing Organization. A lot of people don't even know what that is, right? It's the tourism bureau within each city. So these tourism bureaus, they care about the economic impact of events that are happening. They make money off of the innkeeper's tax at hotel rooms when you purchase a hotel room, right? They care about supporting their local community and driving business into the local restaurants, into the local shops, into the attractions that these events bring in. So A, they want to find events to bring into their city, but B, they want to stimulate the local economy for those events, right? Yep. And then the final problem is they then need to prove that the event that came in actually did stimulate the economy, right? And that's actually a big challenge. And so what we saw was this opportunity of, hey, this stakeholder really, nobody's innovating for them. And they're actually a very strategic stakeholder because they're the ones with the purse strings that are actually giving tax dollars to the event organizer to bring their event in, right? From how much tourism it's going to drive.
Sean, real quick, just for a point of clarity, are we talking events like March Madness and the Super Bowl, or are we talking like events like, AAU and Perfect Game? Like, what is the span of, like, when you say events, like, like what is the, sort of scope that it covers?
Yeah. So at this point, we work with, I think 700 plus unique event organizations that have about 2,000 events that are up for bid right now for the United States. These range everything from the NCAA Sweet 16 and Elite 8 matches, all the way down to 7-year-old dance competitions,
Oh,
right?
wow.
This ranges the entire gambit of professional, collegiate, adult recreation. There's some cool softball events out there that will bring in a lot of spectators and a lot of people traveling. There's like Major League Kickball events that are out there. So 120 or so different sports from really every age group. It's any event that brings out of town visitors, right? And
Very
so
cool.
that's really what that is.
Yep. Thanks for the clarification. And, I think sometimes when we hear
Yeah.
about these, we just think about the high ticket events. And like, when you hear these metrics of, youth sports is a $50 billion industry, it's one of those things that, I'm just curious, like if that got wrapped into the pie there. So appreciate the clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yep. So the whole thing is wrapped in the pie. I mean, the shining light at the top of the hill is like the FIFA in the Olympics, right?
Yep.
FIFA World Cup in the Olympics. Those are the sports tourism premier events, but it's really anything that drives people to enter a new location. So we through our journey, basically we zeroed in on the destination, saying, hey, we're going to build for them, but what we want to build for is also for us, right? Like, what were the experiences that we had, right? And if you go back to the long snapping, kicking, and punting camps, right? We were trying to teach kids this skill that we had to maybe help benefit some more people's lives to, have that life-changing experience. So let's go back to that, right? Our experience, we didn't run facilities, we didn't run destinations. We weren't really an event organizer. We ran a few kicking and punting and snapping camps, right? But we were the participants. And if you think back like on your childhood and my childhood, so many of the great memories are from these sports trips, right? Are from these sports experiences that we had. And even when I think back at it, like the kicking camp that we were at in Vegas together, I remember very little about the actual camp. I remember it was cold, and I
Hold.
remember I was wondering if anybody's watching me. And that was about it, a couple snaps. I remember a lot about after we were off the field,
Yep.
right? And if we could tie that in together, right? Can we create a solution that's using the destination who has intimate knowledge of their city, all of the cool things to do that can really give those authentic experiences with, give those to the visitors who can now see all the things to do around the area, where to go, how to kind of visit like a local when you're at a new location to help maximize those experiences that the parents and the players can have, which are very important, events in their life, right? If we can help maximize that for the millions of people that are out there, that would be such a cool thing to get out of bed every morning to try to get done, right? And
Mm.
so we kind of fell in love with that. And so what we really want to do is, hey, we're going to help the destinations showcase their city, give them the tools to be able to do that, and also get all the data about where did people go. So that way they can prove the impact that these things had. So that's really kind of where this has now evolved into. While we do the lead gen, and that's a big part of our business, we also kind of look at it as like the entire event life cycle for a sports tourism event, from finding your venue all the way through helping your attendees find cool things to do around the city, to allowing you to now have a nice neat report of the actual impact that generated for that city.
How cool, man. I think it's so interesting when we're able to go 360, right? And really become that comprehensive solution to a neglected stakeholder or a legacy, maybe where they had legacy solutions there. Sean, I'm gonna sort of tease this one, but I would love for you to drive home, and I'm gonna, sort of start with 2 years ago. The whole market was talking about the blockchain and Web3 and NFTs. And we watched a lot of founders, feel like, hey, like they needed to participate in that, right? This year, CES just wrapped up, and now, the new craze is AI. How do you guys at Playeasy think about leveraging advanced technologies to help streamline these processes and leverage the unique position that you guys find yourself in between these multiple stakeholders to enhance the experience for all parties? Just super curious from a founder's lens, like how you think about that.
Yeah, well, hey, good timing for this conversation and good timing for the question, because we just launched our AI solutions, which is what we call Playeasy Intelligence. And so, yeah, the CES event with NVIDIA and a lot of the announcements that have come out from OpenAI and stuff in the recent days are very interesting. I think, just taking a step back, the way we see it, really, AI is like a new user interface, right? where you don't have to be sitting at a screen looking at images, like clicking a mouse. It's more of a conversational interface, right? Where you can talk to something and get an answer from it. So it's more of like a human friendly way to interact with technology. That's probably not anything, groundbreaking that nobody's ever heard before. What is crazy is just how smart this thing is getting, right? Like I think OpenAI and Sam Altman was talking about, super intelligence is coming, and it can predict diagnostics better than a doctor can, right? Like it more accurately than a doctor. And you kind of get that, you're a little bit scared of like, man, what's this going to do to all of us, right? What are the jobs going to be moving forward? And I think if you kind of put yourself in that position, I mean, maybe it will allow humans to kind of go put their feet in the grass a little bit more, right? And not have to be kind of chained to a desk in front of a computer. But what is AI going to be good at? And then where do humans fit in, right? And what I think that we're looking at, and we're very passionate about the whole tourism side of this business and the visitor experiences. And put yourself in a visitor's shoes 3 years from now when AI is kind of taking over the world. Do you want a robot to tell you what the best barbecue is in Nashville? Or do you want the local human destination expert to do that, right? For these human experiences that we have, humans are going to be better at allowing us to kind of like understand where to go, what to do for these live emotional experiences. Robots don't have tongues, robots don't have emotions, right? And so we think that there is something there with human curated content that is, integrated into the AI experience. And so what we've launched is a couple things with Playeasy here, but I think that the catalyst of this is, or kind of a good example of this is, one of the best vacations I've ever taken was to Ireland. And we made this huge itinerary, did a bunch of research, looking at our computers and all the directories of different listings and things to do. We have this big itinerary, sit down at a pub, and one of the local guys there that, sitting down, oh, what do you guys got planned? You guys from America? What are you going to do here? And we've shown the itinerary. He's like, don't do any of that. Here, go here, and here, right? And so we followed that guy's recommendation because we got to chat with a local, right? And that was like really cool. And we had the best time. We didn't get stuck in the tourist traps. We got to have the authentic local experiences. We got to listen to live Irish music from the locals in a basement of a pub at 9 p.m. Like exactly what I wanted to do, right? That's what we want to try to replicate for destinations, to be able to have conversations with their visitors through AI, right? So we came out with something called the AI tour guide. So destinations can now kind of scatter this across their city, into the hotels and the attractions and the facilities. People can scan a QR code and chat with the local destination expert about, here's the best places to go. Here's the authentic experiences. Here's exclusive deals and discounts. But you don't have to look through, directories of listings. You can just have a conversation and get those answers back. And so really excited about that we just launched, as well as this AI of allowing event organizers now to just chat with Playeasy to find their venues and destinations instead of having to go through a UI. But I think from a that conceptual standpoint, it's that human curated layer of like professional curation made by human experts that you can now use AI to have a conversation with that, but still think that there's a place for a human there, especially when it comes to those human experiences. So that's kind of our thought process.
No, it's so cool. And I think, Sean, what's going to be neat is in 12 months, maybe we'll do a follow-up podcast, and the speed at which this is accelerating, I don't think we can truly comprehend, but it's so neat right now where, you sort of create that conduit to a more curated experience. Where it's going to go, I have no clue, but I can sit here, and I think a lot of our listeners can as well, to say, man, I've shown up in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, because that's where this, softball or, whatever tournament, fill in the blank. And I'm sure there's some really cool things to do that, like, candidly, if you're not paying enough for a Google search, you're just not seeing it, right? And so I think this is like, it's such a necessary tool. I want to go to the other side of the fence, right? So there's the building of the application, and then there's the adoption of the application, right? So as you roll this out, I think society is still figuring out how to engage with tools that are providing this level of intelligence, from a founder's lens, and then how you're rolling this out with your team. What are some tips tips and tricks that you have seen working as you guys start to bring this to market to start to gain adoption and trust, knowing that you're talking to, perceivably a bot or something that is not human on the other end to start?
Yeah. Yeah. So we launched these January 1st. So we don't really have the perfect answer for that. But I think one of the advantages we have is we work with, 300 plus different cities across the country that we can kind of tap into. But
Sure.
the main thing, our plan is we have 5 destinations right now that are going deep, right? Rock Hill, South Carolina, or York County is one of them. And what we've seen the best is you take a market, you take your customer type, and you make a couple of them extremely successful. Then you let them tell their story to their colleagues, right? And then more are going to buy in, then more people are telling that story to their colleagues, and then they buy in more people. I think the big thing for just getting things out there, especially in the sports tourism industry, but maybe just for the whole sports industry altogether, from the tech side, it's really hard to have like a rocket ship tech company here in this industry. Things kind of grow a bit slower. This is more of a relationship driven industry, is what we found. So you really got to gain people's trust. And so we have this concept more so of like, we're planting seeds, right? We're not trying to harvest the fruit yet, right? And so we still have that concept, provide more value, get people to talk about it. Word of mouth is absolutely critical. And especially in the sports industry in general, is really what we've seen. So that trust of people having success, telling other people about it is one thing. Trusting the AI is an entirely new thing that, it's nice that, our solution, it's all grounded in our data. So you feel like you have a bit more control, but I don't think we still kind of, scratch the surface on problems or questions or things that are going to come up with just interacting with robots plus humans. We'll see how that goes.
Well said. Well said. And I think there's a larger nugget out there that, we're watching a macro trend where it's like we're getting more connected, we're getting more intelligence, we're getting more of everything on the advancement side. And as a byproduct, we're watching communities start to bubble up again where, the humans want to feel a part of something. And I think that all goes back to that trust element, right? So we're going to have so much information at our fingertips, but how do we start to verify that this is the right place to go? And I think that's what's so unique about your guys' model is working and evolving from the economic development to the tourism boards, these highly curated, specific, information sets that now you're able to deliver in a more streamlined way. Extremely excited and bullish to watch how you guys put your fingerprint on the market and not only impact sports and the tournament organizers, but impact the moms and dads and the aunts and uncles and the grandparents that come to these events. And it's no longer just heads in beds. Now it's how do we create this 360 experience, which I think will just make the cities happier, makes the attendees happier, and all in all, I think just a better experience. So, Sean, this is so cool, man. Like, it's been neat to sort of go through chronologically what you guys are doing. Talk to me about Aspirations for 25. You guys launched this at the top of the year. What else is on your roadmap? What else can the listeners be on the lookout for as we navigate the rest of this year?
Yeah. I think it is the big thing for us from just that visitor experience and also kind of like the site selection from the event organizer side of things. But I also think just like being a part of the community, we're having our own innovators conference that we're now throwing in the summertime. And that's really for the sports tourism community to come in and, AI and technologies are advancing at a rate that like no one's ever seen, like you've said, right? Every week is like a decade previously in terms of advancement. And so just kind of having a place where we can all kind of get together and go through best practices and how can we stay ahead of the curve so we don't kind of get crushed by it, right? Take this as an advantage. And if we're a first mover, everybody involved, right? If we can all be first movers, we can have that competitive advantage over kind of where it's going. So I think, in what you guys are doing with the whole community side of Profluence, I think we're extremely excited and bullish of being a part of that community and it's kind of getting out there and listening to everybody else, sharing best practices. And, as we do what we do and other people are doing what they do, kind of seeing what's working, what's not, and moving forward. But I think it's a huge, huge moment for live experiences, huge moment for sports. That's not going anywhere. That's growing. Yeah. So this is going to be really fun. really fun ride in 2025 and see where it takes us into 2026.
Hell yeah, man. I couldn't agree more. And, we always say if we can put good people together, we can watch great things happen, right? And that's the name of the game. And, especially in the sports world where it's been a little legacy, right? And we haven't seen a ton of innovation. We're watching more capital, we're watching more attention, we're watching more participation than maybe ever before. So I think it's imperative to, bubble folks like yourself up that are a true leader in the space, that are not just participating, but innovating and really starting to shape the world that my young children are going to participate in, right? So it's there's real responsibility to building in the sports world. So Sean, this has been absolutely amazing, fun, informative. We got to ask a couple fun questions here at the end just so we can timestamp it. We just got through wild cards. Who's winning the Super Bowl this year?
I hope it's the Lions versus the Bills, and one of them can win. I'm gonna pull for the Lions. I'm a Steelers fan personally, so kind of heartbroken. I almost wish we didn't make the playoffs at all. But,
it doesn't matter. They'll bring Tomlin back, I promise.
They will. That's what they do. Steelers don't fire.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, listen, it's so fun to get these conversations. As Sean mentioned, if you're not in the community, we have 600 builders, founders, investors, advisors that are all connecting to go ahead and create a better environment. We encourage everyone to come check it out. Sean, if anyone from the podcast wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to go ahead and do that?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I keep up with that pretty much every day. So Sean Flaherty, Playeasy. You search those, you'll see me. And,
fantastic, man. Fantastic. Well, we'll be sure to go ahead and circulate it. We're excited to watch the ride that Playeasy is going to be on. And, like I said, man, we'll circle back in a year and do a pulse check to see if there's any humans involved in this. Time will tell, man. But thank you so much. What a fun conversation, and good luck with everything this year.
Yeah, thanks you. Thank you. You too. Keep going.